Hey guys, Ridden here, and tonight we're going to review Disney Pixar Animation's latest film, Soul. Hello, everybody. Ridden, back here with you guys. Happy holidays, happy new year, happy 2021. I hope you guys are having as fantastic a time as I am. So, over the winter break, I had the opportunity to finally sit down and watch Disney Pixar's Soul. It came out on Christmas Day, came out same day as Wonder Woman 84, premiered on HBO Max. So, I know everybody had the really tough decision of, hey, what do I watch? What do I watch? For me personally, me and my family decided, hey, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna watch Soul. Soul is Disney Pixar's latest film. It's starring Jamie Foxx and Tina Fey, and I must say, I loved it. It's one of those films where you go into it expecting it to have a certain moral, to have a certain story that it wants to tell, and about halfway through the film, it completely flips it on its head and has a new story to tell and has a new moral to get across. And it's very refreshing. I do have a hot take. I do believe that this film is not necessarily just for children. As I was watching the film, I was sort of engrossed in it myself. And I just remember sitting there thinking, like, man, most kids aren't really gonna get this. Our protagonist, Joe Gardner, is a middle school music teacher from New York City who has dreams of having a career in jazz, even though his mother, Libba, objects to it, just fearing for the financial security and job stability of it all, I guess. But, eventually Joe gets his big break. He gets a call from one of his former students, Curly, who says, hey, man, I've got an opportunity for you to come out and perform with me and Dorothea Williams, who just happens to be a breakout artist. So, Joe trots off. He does the audition and he kills it. He does great. This is his big break. This is his chance. And in his exuberance, in his excitement, he falls down a manhole and he doesn't die per se, but this is where our story truly begins. When Joe awakens, he's not himself. He's not in his form that he's familiar with. He's not in his body. He finds himself in a place where his soul is heading into the great beyond. And yes, great beyond as in death. So Joe freaks. He's completely unwilling to die before his big break. So he tries to escape, but he ends up in the great before where he encounters a bunch of soul counselors, entities known as Jerry, who prepare unborn souls for life. And this is where the film really starts to come into its own. I won't do an entire recap of the film as I'm sure many of you have seen it already, and whoever hasn't seen it wouldn't want to come and sit through a complete spoiler review anyway. But what I will do is give you my complete thoughts on the film. With this being Disney Pixar's first African American protagonist, this film intrigued me for a lot of different reasons. I really wanted to see what direction they were going to go with this film. I wanted to see if they were going to get into more of Joe's backstory, his aspirations, his upbringing, his parentage. I wanted to see if they were going to show us why he has this deep passion for music, if it came from something else or if it was something he's wanted to do since he was a child. Joe's ultimate task ends up being making it back to Earth in some form, one way or another, so he can, take advantage of his big break. But along the way, he ends up picking up another task, which you'll see in the film, which ends up really giving the movie his character and most of his heart. There's a character that comes along by the name of 22. When I saw 22 in the trailers and I saw 22 in some of the early premiere items, I was actually pretty sure the character of 22 was going to get very annoying and very boring to me very quickly. But man, in this film, 22 grows on you, completely grows on you very fast, and you get very enthralled into how is this film going to work out. Like, is it going to be Joe's film and we're more interested in where Joe goes in this hour and 30 minutes, or are we more interested in where 22 ends up in this hour and 30 minutes? So Pixar does a fantastic job of having two main characters essentially and making you care about the outcomes for both. 22's overall arc is a good one in my opinion. Once 22 and Joe are paired, it becomes obvious to the viewer as well as 22 that Joe is in no way like any of her past mentors. He's not what the world he left behind would have considered to be overly successful and influential, and there probably aren't that many people back on Earth presently even aware of his absence. The chemistry between these two characters really becomes the glue of the movie, because you have an atypical unborn soul who has no desire whatsoever to go forth and experience life, and a bit of a weathered soul who has experienced life and hasn't thus far had the best run of things. So the journey of Joe trying to enthuse and coach 22 and into becoming a more world-ready soul, which in this film translates to 22 earning the spark, which allows for passage to Earth, begins. And it's delightful. There's the added element of Joe hoping to piggyback his own way back to Earth on the skirts of 22, and as an audience member, you become tied to this quest of how will these characters fare ultimately. And so the film delivers in typical fashion, as most Pixar films do. They set up the world of a vibrant, bustling New York City, and our guy Joe is simply a cog in the machine, going about his life every day, hoping for just a bit more. And by the time Soul really begins to kick into gear with his narrative plot direction, you really care about Joe and how things are going to end up for him. You also care just as much for 22, in the hopes that maybe 22 will begin to find, the way, and maybe not have as bad a run as 22 is anticipating. So for me, I believe the moral of the story and the underlying tone was going to be that every person has a specific passion and purpose and is remarkably different in their own way. But then the film flips that on its head a bit by revealing that a soul spark isn't in fact any particular purpose or passion, but instead just the soul's achievement, just the soul's readiness to begin this process that we know as living. So, hands down, I loved it. I really did. In my lifetime, Pixar has had an incredible run and reputation for putting out quality, thoughtful content. And in Soul, they continued that trend, and they really did uphold that standard. The animation was amazing. The voice acting was fantastic. The casting was perfect. At no point in the film did I think to myself, hey, that's Jamie Foxx reading lines in the back, and that's Felicia Rashad, and so on and so forth. So with Joe Gardner being Pixar's first African-American protagonist, there was a lot riding on this film, in my opinion, and it wasn't a letdown in any way. The culture, the vibe, what we were given in terms of different aspects of Joe's life, it all worked for me. It really did. The barbershop scene was a highlight of the movie for me, as this is where we finally start to see the turn in narrative purpose, and I had to rewind the movie at least 5 times to soak it all in. And Donnell Rawlings' character, Dez, the veterinarian barber, was superb. By the end of the movie, I had this overall sense of completeness, which you don't always get with films with heavy, moral overtones. So that was both refreshing and sort of refilling. This will surely be a one-off deal. I don't anticipate we'll be seeing Joe in 22 again, unless maybe it's going to be in future Pixar short format, and I'm perfectly fine with that. The story was presented, and told both visually and emotionally exactly the way it should have been, and as audience members, that's all we can ever truly ask for. I would highly recommend this movie to you, your friends, and your family, as I've already either watched it with or talked very loudly more than once to those of mine. It was an awesome holiday spectacle, and I look forward to what Pixar has coming next. Maybe even a solo movie from my man Dez. Again, guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that bell for notifications. All the necessary links are listed below to follow and to help you guys keep up with the coming content and shareables. Please also check out the channel's merch store. And if you see something you like or want to simply support, grab it. Grab it all. Thanks so much, guys and gals, for hanging around with me here today. This video has been a blast, and I'll be seeing you. But for now, be blessed. And it was written.
Across the nighttime, the city sleep inside. Yeah, hear her voice shake my window.